Advisor for ANZIO, the African Nova Scotian Affairs Integration Office, with our Diversity and Inclusion Office. Thank you for joining us today as we gather to mark African Heritage Month 2026. This year's theme is Strength and Unity, moving forward with purpose, prosperity, power, and progress. This reminds us that our collective future is built when we move together, across generations, across communities, and with shared intention. We're honored to be gathered here in City Hall, a place of civic significance to reflect and celebrate and recommit ourselves to equity and community advancement. I now invite Jared Watton, our Indigenous Outreach and Research Advisor, to offer the land acknowledgement.
Gwen, and good morning, everyone. As we gather for this year's African Heritage Month flag raising, we begin by honoring the land on which we stand. We are on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, the original stewards of Mi'kmaq. This land has been governed for thousands of years by the values, laws, teachings, and ceremonies of the Mi'kmaq Nation, and continues to be held in the spirit of peace and friendship. Today, as we celebrate African Heritage Month, we also acknowledge the long and meaningful relationship between the Mi'kmaq people and people of African descent in Nova Scotia. From the earliest days of Black presence here, whether Black loyalists, Jamaican Maroons, Black refugees, or the generations that follow, Mi'kmaq people extended support, knowledge, and solidarity. In many places, our communities lived side by side, shared resources, and exchanged culture and built bonds that helped us both survive the systems designed to marginalize us. These relationships were not always recorded in official histories, but they live on in family stories, in shared traditions, and in ways that our communities have stood together in struggle and in celebration. They remind us that the resilience is strongest when collective, and that story of Nova Scotia is not one of isolated cultures, but one of interconnected people shaping one another. As we celebrate today, we honor the ongoing global legacy of African peoples, but also the local living relationship that has shaped our province. We recognize the Mi'kmaq Nation as partners in history, neighbors, and in community, and allies in the ongoing work of justice, dignity, and belonging. May this month inspire us to deepen those relationships, to learn from one another, and to continue building a Nova Scotia where many cultures truly stand as one people. Walalia, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Jared. I now will welcome Devin Pierce from the ANZCAP team to share our African Nova Scotian affirmation.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, Nova Scotia is the birthplace of Canada's Black presence and home to over 52 African Nova Scotian communities across the province. The Halifax Regional Municipality recognizes the resilience, leadership, and more than 400 years of history and contributions of African Nova Scotians, whose legacy continues to shape our municipality. We commit to fostering respect, inclusion, and empowerment while confronting anti-Black racism and systemic inequities in partnership with African Nova Scotian communities. This affirmation reflects our commitment to honor and recognize the past and build a more inclusive, just, and equitable society as we look towards the future in partnership with African Nova Scotians within the Halifax Regional Municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. We will now hear Lift Every Voice and Sing, our Black National Anthem by Demarty Dixon. Please raise if you're able.
Check, check, check. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky. Let it resound
faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by Thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the place where we were when we met Thee, lest our hearts drink from the wine of the world we forget Thee. Oh, shadow beneath Thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you very much. I now invite Councilor Virginia Hinch for the reading of our proclamation. Good morning. I just want to say it's an honor to be here to read the proclamation this morning. Totally grateful. So I'm here on behalf of the mayor and city council for Halifax Regional Municipality to read the proclamation. Whereas the Halifax Regional Municipality is committed to celebrating the cultural heritage of all citizens, and whereas February is recognized internationally as African Heritage Month, a time to recognize and salute the many contributions and ongoing achievements of Black people all over the world. And whereas 2026 marks the 42nd year of the Black History Month Association has celebrated the achievements of African Nova Scotians in Halifax. And whereas 2026 marks the 100th anniversary of Negro History Week, as established by Carter G. Woodson on the second week of February in 1926, which later became the Black History Month. And whereas this year is the theme is strengthening in unity, moving forward with purpose, prosperity, power, and progress. A theme that speaks to the power that comes when African Nova Scotians and people of African descent stand together with a shared sense of direction. It is recognized that the unity is an active force for change, shaping stronger communities, advancing justice, opening the doors to new opportunities. And whereas the theme also aligns with all Canadian adoption of Second United Nations International Decades for People of African Descent, DPAD, 2025 to 2034.
with the goal to strengthen global cooperations, support of people of African descent, increase awareness of the passage towards presence in all aspects of society. Therefore be it resolved that I, Councilor Virginia Hinch, on behalf of the Mayor, Andy Fillmore, and Halifax Regional Council, do hereby proclaim February 2026 as African Heritage Month in Halifax Regional Municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. I will now ask Septimus to come and do another drumming performance.
biggest play. He called me, I called him, and we talked to each other. That's great. Thank you so much. Okay. So the meaning of this domain is the spirit of Africa, like in Sierra Leone, the Duam talk to each other. So he called me, I called him, and we talked to each other with the music, and we vibe to each other. So that's how we play. Thank you.
I now invite Tracy Jones Grant, the Managing Director of Diversity and Inclusion, to bring greetings.
Good morning, everybody. Drums are the heartbeat, are they not? Some of what I'm going to say you probably heard in the proclamation, but I do want to repeat a few things because, as we know in our community, we're always standing on somebody's shoulders. It's not like things just happen. It's an evolution, and we stand on people's shoulders. So, as Councillor Hinch mentioned, this is the 100th anniversary of Black History Week. It was called Negro History Week. Think about that, 100 years. In February 1926, Carter G. Woodson established this to combat the omission of Black history from American education and culture. And then we think about, most recently, the Government of Canada announced the celebration of the 30th anniversary of the celebration of Black History Month in Canada. And then we contradict them by saying we are on our 41st anniversary. And I look around the room and I see some familiar faces who were around when the Cultural Awareness Youth Group first began this, under the leadership of David Woods and the support of the Halifax North Memorial Library, Mr. Terry Simons. We can't forget that those people had a vision, and they saw that we could tell our stories as people of African descent here in this province, and that we were going to share our history and our culture and our stories, and we wanted it embedded in the education system, and we wanted it told from one end of the province to the next. So it's exciting to be here to recognize and celebrate African Heritage Month in Nova Scotia. I came to the regional municipality almost 11 years ago. And when I first joined the municipality, most of the things that we were doing, we sort of did flag raising and walked away. We sort of did things and walked away. I'm very proud to say that under the leadership of our African Nova Scotian Integration Office, this work is embedded. It's not just talking about African Heritage Month, it's doing. It's changing how the municipality is working in communities. It's changing our relationship. It's listening, but not just going out and grabbing that information and taking it and running with it. It's going out, going back, going out, and going back. And that's a lot of what it is when we talk about African Heritage Month, sharing our stories, and making change. Because African Heritage Month isn't just one big party, 1 month, the coldest month of the year. Right? I'm not built for this cold. So, and we have to understand, when Carter G. Woodson did it, he was down south. So February was warm. He wasn't up north here. So it's not just about that 1 month, that 28 days. This is the story of 365 days of the year. It's important all the time. The last thing I want to say is, I talked about we've been doing this 41 years. Guess who's been around doing it for 41 years? But it's time, and you're seeing it more and more in a lot of what we do in community, to pass the mantle. It's time for the generation now, as Russell Brooks coined. It's not the next generation, that we need to be thinking about. It's the generation now. It's those youth and young people who are here right now, who are willing to step into our shoes and carry the torch forward. So as we think about the theme for African Heritage Month this year, strength and unity, moving forward with purpose, prosperity, power, and progress, let's not forget that this isn't just a February thing. This is a 365. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm pleased now to introduce our intergenerational panel discussion. It is moderated by our very own ABR advisor, Russell Brooks.
Testing, nope. This works, I think. Testing. I'll just project my voice anyways. But, so, good morning everybody and welcome. On behalf of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, African Nova Scotian Affairs Integration Office, we want to welcome you to our African Heritage Month celebration. We're having a panel conversation today. A lot of times when we're talking about African Heritage Month, we do talk about celebrating African heritage and the culture and all that history, the stories of resilience and everything like that. But a lot of times when we're having conversations, we're spotlighting and we're celebrating, we don't think about unity. We're usually looking at one group, one population. And for this conversation, we really want to think about the now generation, the generation that has been really leading, the shoulders that we've been standing on, and everything in between that. That's really what unity means. It's really connecting everybody and holding space for everybody. So that's what we are here to do today. So African Heritage Month in Nova Scotia is not only a time of celebration, but a time of reflection, learning, and recommitment. We make a lot of commitments, but it's important to come back and recommit time and time again. It's an opportunity to honor the deep and enduring contributions of people of African descent, while also examining how our shared history informs the path forward. The African Heritage Month theme this year is Strength and Unity, moving forward with purpose, prosperity, power, and progress. It challenged us to think intentionally about what unity looks like across generations, and how purpose, prosperity, power, and progress are not abstract ideas, but lived experiences shaped by things like policy, education, community, and our collective responsibility. So today's intergenerational panel brings together three voices representing different points along that journey. Through their lived experiences, insights, and reflections, we hope to explore how African Heritage Month is understood today, how it is carried forward, and how unity remains essential to meaningful progress. So this is not a conversation about the past alone, it is about how we move forward together in unity. So, with that said, let's meet our panelists. So, first, I'm going to welcome Mr. Joel Marsman. So Joel Marsman is a retired civil servant and business owner. He was born and raised in the historic Black community of Upper Hammonds Plains, and he's currently living in Halifax with his wife, Adrienne. Joel is the father of 3 children. He has 4 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. And in 2012, Joel was honored by the African Heritage Month Information Network and the province of Nova Scotia as an unsung hero, Men Who Make a Difference. In 2025, he was presented with an honorary diploma for the trades from the Nova Scotia Community College. Joel is a member of Emmanuel Baptist Church in Upper Hammonds Plains. He loves to worship his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, spend time with family, play golf, and travel. Please join me in welcoming Joel Marsman. So our next panelist that we're going to welcome is Miss Karen Hudson. She is from the community of Cherry Brook, Lake Loon, Nova Scotia. This is the bio she gave me. I'm reading the bio. She's an experienced and knowledgeable educator with over 20 years of educational training. She is currently the principal of Auburn Drive High School with Halifax Regional Center for Education, also known as HRCE. She is a creator and founder of the first Afrocentric math cohort in the province of Nova Scotia. In 2019, she was recognized nationally as one of Canada's outstanding principals for her work in embedding Afrocentric principles within the school system by the Learning Partnership. She chairs and volunteers on many community boards, and when I mean many, I would have had a whole other page. In 2024, she received an honorary doctorate in civil law from St. Mary's University for her educational and community work, and was recognized nationally by the 100 ABC Women for her work in education. In 2025, she was recognized with another honorary degree from Dalhousie University. Ms. Karen Hudson continues to speak up against environmental racism, social justice, and inequities within education. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Hudson. And our third panelist is Nevasia Slaughter. So Nevasia is a community-driven leader, currently in her second year at Dalhousie University. She's majoring in sociology and social anthropology with plans to enter the social worker program later this year in the fall. She's a graduate of Auburn Drive, so she knows somebody out there. She made history as the school's first Black co-president and was named grade 9 class valedictorian in 2021 and became a 2021 ICU Cheer World's Championship bronze medalist. Nevasia works as a student assistant at the Black Student Advising Center and has served for 3 years at the East Preston Family Resource Center, supporting youth and families through advocacy and community engagement. She is also an active member of St. Thomas Baptist Church. She be running to the church, taking videos and all that good stuff. And she lives by Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. She's passionate about collective growth. She's committed to uplifting young women and men alongside her, drawing wisdom from elders, strength from the youth, and transforming shared challenges into shared success. Please join me in welcoming Nevasia Slaughter. All right, so we will have a Q&A period at the end, so if you have any questions, I would invite you to hold on to those at the end of the conversation. Yeah, because we do want to create some engagement and interaction with the panelists. I'm just going to come from behind here. Yeah, so we'll kick things off, and I'll open this question to all of you, and we'll let you start first, Mr. Marsman. So when you hear African heritage, what does it mean to you personally, and how has that meaning been shaped by your lived experience in Nova Scotia?
Is the mic on? Hello?
Nope.
You got a big voice.
Hello?
Okay.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I have a question. I'm going to try to remember. What was that again?
So when you hear African heritage, what does it mean to you personally, and how has that meaning been shaped by your lived experience in Nova Scotia?
Well, when I think about African Heritage Month, I think about an opportunity to share our story, to tell people about African Nova Scotia. We've been in this province for 400 years. And you know, a lot of people don't realize the contributions and the sacrifices and the hardship that our people had to go through. And when I was growing up in school, we didn't hear anything about African Nova Scotian contribution to the society. So African Heritage Month is an excellent opportunity, and I think it's been doing a great job of spreading the word, telling our story. And I'm just so excited that it's continued all these years. First, I remember when it was Black History Month, back in the day, I guess. But it certainly has grown, and everywhere I go now, I hear people talking about, Black History Month, because it's not just like you say, in February. It's, it's 365 days a year. Our story continues, and we have to continue to tell our story.
Thank you. Who wants to go next?
All right.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
And thank you to the Integration Office for
Inviting us to be part of this event. This is going off and on. Not sure
What?
why.
Anyway, let's try again.
So when I think about African Heritage Month, is it just?
I don't think you don't.
Use your teacher.
You don't need. Yeah, you don't need. There you go.
All right, so when I think about African Heritage Month, I think about my ancestors, my elders, those individuals who actually paved the pathway for me. I'm actually grounded in who they are. I think about my mom and my dad, my family, my community of Lake Loon and Cherry Brook, for Crystal over there. I just think about the trials and exclusion that never happened for them. And I feel that today that as Black people, we are history 365 days, and you can't take that from us. I feel very passionate about my culture, my people, and I love my history. And I'm grateful to David Woods for the work that he laid for us in terms of, I was one of those prodigies of Culture and Shoots Group. And so if it wasn't for David and the North Branch Library and the Black Basketball Tournament, like all those community events, I don't think I would be the person that I am today. And so I want to say, thank you for those ancestors. Thank you for my community that have enriched my life and made me the person that I continue to be in terms of transforming the way I think and my love of our people. And also of our community and our culture and our history. That's what I feel in terms of, it's part of my lived experience. And you can't take it, it's inside. And so even when people from the outside try to make you an outsider, I want them to understand that we're inside of this history.
So true. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I just first like to say I'm so grateful to share space with all of you, especially these two up here with me today. For me, African Heritage Month is a time of reflection, celebration, and just to be grateful. Like, being Black to me is such a privilege, and a lot of people might think because of the hardships that my ancestors faced, that it would be a hindrance or an embarrassment to be Black. To me, I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams. And to be able to be in a space like this at such a young age, I feel like not only is it opening doors for myself, but opening doors for all the younger and Black women and men. So for me, it's a time of learning my history, being proud of how far we've come, and just seeing what more we can do.
Love that. So thank you, everyone. So one of the things that I really liked that was said is that for Black folks, we're Black 365 days a year. So, if you're all just trying to, check a box for February, we wear the skin that we're in all year round. So I thank the panelists for raising that. And then the other thing that I really love that you said, Naveja, just around, how there are challenges. There are things that are going to get in our way in terms of barriers and resistance and things like that, but like how you still carry that sense of pride. I love that, and I think that it is inspiring for anybody that is able to hear what you're sharing, so thank you for that. So we're going to pivot into the next question. So really wanting you from your own personal lived experience, and we'll start with you on this one. You know, we talk about what African Heritage Month means, but how do you define power and progress as a young Black person in Nova Scotia?
I think, at least for me, I don't think you would expect to see someone like myself in a space like this. Like, I feel like age is always like a immediate thing that people see, and you can't be afraid to put yourself in these spaces. Like, if you're given those opportunities, run with it.
Right.
So, I think a lot of it, I have to give a lot of thanks to Ms. Hudson. She saw something in me when I got to Auburn in grade 10. I didn't speak. Like, high school was really intimidating. It's a brand new space. You're learning so much about yourself. Ms. Hudson was putting me in spaces that, like, I didn't even know I was capable of being in. But if you have one person, especially, and again, I would love to give thanks to my mom. She always told me that I would do anything I would put my mind to, and I would do great in it. So all you need is one person to believe in you, and you can take on the world.
Well said, well said. So, Mr. Marsman, so, not trying to age anybody, but, you know, from your perspective and your experience, what have you learned from the past, and what do you feel that's important that generations carry forward from that past?
Well, when I was thinking about that question, I believe unity, the word kept coming to mind, being unified. I remember our community, whenever we got anything done, accomplished because we came together in unity. And I think going forward, we have to stay united. I think I would say to young people, you're stronger together than we are apart. And there's power in unity. So as we move forward, I think we need to keep in mind that when one part of the body is hurting, it all hurts. So we need to stay unified. We need to stay focused on our future and focus on our story. If we don't tell it, nobody else will.
And if you could just, I'm curious if you could just kind of speak to, you know, when you think of some of the challenges that you have faced in your lifetime, and you're talking about unity, can you kind of speak to what unity looked like?
Well, I mean, I know there's a broad question here, but when I was thinking about growing up in the community, Upper Hammers Plains and the border, we had to come together, that community had to come together almost always. First off, I remember we had to come together in unity to fight to get the road plowed in the wintertime. 3, 4, 5 days later after the storm, our road wasn't plowed. The road down lower Hammers Plains would be plowed, and ours would be the last one to get plowed up. Then you go forward a little bit, when I was a boy, the road was dirt. We had to come together and fight to get the road paved. That was a struggle. And then later on, it was trying to get the water through the community after they appropriated the lake in the community. So it just seemed to be a continuous coming together, facing adversity from all fronts for no reason, like paying taxes, all of that, but yet our community, we had to fight to get some of those basic things. So when I think about it, the school we went to in our community, there was a fight. I remember the trustee board was talking about it to get the appropriate learning materials that other schools had that we didn't have. So there was, and it was all because we were in a black community.
Right.
Because it was striking to me in the 60s, mid-60s, when they closed our school to junior high and up, they transferred us, integrated the schools, and we were transferred to Bedford to go to school at junior high, grade 7. I remember going there, and it was like going to the moon. It was so different. I mean, they had this great big school with all these classes, all these rooms, and all this, and we had this 3-room little place, 2 or 3 grades in the same room. And our education level was so different. Like, I remember hearing stuff that said, how do they know this stuff? Why weren't we taught this? So that was, to me, it motivated me to learn more. To others, it was a hurdle that they couldn't get over. So it was, but I think African Heritage Month and all of it, there's a lot that goes with it. It's not just celebrating our accomplishments and good stuff. It's recognizing and acknowledging what we had to come through to get here, and still have to fight to maintain. So I don't want to go on too long, but anyway, that's it.
No, thank you so much for that. And you know, you helped really paint a vivid picture for, you know, some of the people that aren't familiar with kind of what that was like, you know, being in the community, and then when you leave the community and you're being exposed to things for the first time. So thank you for opening the eyes for everybody to get just a glimpse of what that was like. And so now we'll pivot to you, Ms. Hudson. And so for you, I'm just asking you, you know, thinking about your background in education, and I'm curious to hear, you know, how you see African heritage showing up in the classroom and learning spaces today. Has it changed? From what I'm hearing, it has, thanks to pioneers like yourself, but if you could share a little bit of kind of what you're seeing today and speaking to kind of where we've come.
I think we're working towards it. I just wanted to say something to Mr. Marsman and also to Naveja and to Mom that's here as well. First, I want to say thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge, but also the permission as an elder within our community, the permission for allowing us to go forward, and also to see faith in terms of bringing in that spirituality piece. And I think that's important as well. Mom, you know, you allowed her and you gave her the wisdom, but also you trusted her in our hands, that we as educators, leading to the question, as educators, that we were going to do what you wanted her to do based on what you believed she could do. And so for that, even though when she didn't know she could, she was able to, in pushing. That's the goal, to always push. So within the education system, it's constantly pushing, you know, trying to get those leaders, instructional leaders, administrators like ourselves, who have that power to see that you intentionally have to make change, and that you're going to make sure that there's structural racism that does exist and has existed for so many years, but what can we do? So maybe we have to look about, you talked earlier about the stories, those narratives. What is the purpose? Why are we teaching those particular materials? And so with that, thinking about how we can bring the lived reality, those voices of the current issues and community into the classroom. So maybe having students look in terms of developing their stories, developing the posters of people who live today, but also people who lived in the past. Thinking about what that would look like. You know, making sure that you take opportunity to learn for yourself. Like, if you don't learn yourself about what's happening with our people, how can you teach our children or other children about what's happening as well? So you have to take that initiative and actually do it. So that's one thing in terms of you have to do it as well. There has to be a will. There has to be a will to act, to make sure that you know that it has not been included within the curriculum, that you have to put it within the curriculum. You said the word about embedding, it has to be embedded. It just can't be, we say it's February, and I know we're talking about February, but we're talking about 365 days. We keep saying that because it has to be integrated into the curriculum. So that means within all your subjects, when you go into those classrooms, you should be able to see faces that represent the people that we teach in our province, not just one group of people. And so I see tidbits of this happening where teachers will actually put a fact of the week or a fact of the day within their science class. You wouldn't think they would do that, but they're actually doing that now. And that's because of the training that they're getting in terms of relevant pedagogies and instruction and how we respond to issues. So I see more of that today than in the past. But we're in the now. You said we're in the now, the generation of the now. You know what? I'm part of the generation now. I don't say that I'm not part of the now, right? In terms of keeping up with the times. Keeping up with the times is keeping up with our history and our culture, making sure that it's present and it's relevant to our children.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to throw this question to all of you, or whoever kind of wants to weigh in on it, because we are talking about unity. We're talking about across generations, intergenerational things. And where do you see unity across generations? Sometimes you see unity in pockets, you know, where the young folks are mobilizing, they're together, and then we got, you know, some older folks, they're together. But do you see unity across generations, and if so, what does that look like?
Well, I think there is unity across generations, because I'm just thinking back with a church that I attended in Emmanuel Baptist, and the generation, there is no generation gap. We get a lot of young people, middle-aged families, or young child families, older seniors, and we try to incorporate and include them all in there. So I think if there's this unity somewhere in the generations, it's certainly minor in terms of being in there. But on the other hand, I would say that our younger people approach things differently than what we did. But it doesn't mean that they're not unified. They just come together differently because their pressures that they were dealing with now are different than the pressures we dealt with. So when I was a young man, and I remember the turbulent times of the 60s when the Black Power individual came to Halifax, and I think it was around 18 years old. I went to that meeting, and everything, the tension and everything, because of the racism and the uncertainty of the times, we were unified more so because of the pressure of that time.
Right.
And the young people today are unified in moving forward of the times that we're in, because they're not under the same type of pressure. That doesn't mean that there's not racism or discrimination in the system. It just means that the overt things that we had to deal with, like not being able to get an apartment, not being able to go to this school, not being able to work here or there, that was immediate and very striking. So it prompted us to come together. But young people now come together under a much better environment. This young lady here come together to move forward, right. to move things forward. And I think that's great. You know, they're better educated in a lot of cases than my generation. And they're motivated to do things. I see a lot of stuff happening in the young community. I'm very, very proud. I've never seen so many university educated young black people ever. But that was our dream in the 60s, to have that.
Right.
So I think it's great. I don't know that there's disunity, but there's a different kind of unity. That would be my opinion.
Thank you.
I think it's unity, based on what you just said just now. We're unified to get change. You know, you were talking about education and universities and the colleges. You see people come together and make sure that places where we weren't seen, being visible, were visible. We still got ways to go, but we've got, you know, people more in terms of the medical, into the law profession, social work, many aspects, even skilled trades. So we're unified for a purpose, and that's what it was. It was being intentional in terms of finding out what we need to do as a group. And I think as a collective, people, the Ujima, we work together, we're strong. And I think sometimes the power to be, they know that. So that they try to, like, Mr. Marsden said here, they are the ones who are trying to change that unity for us. But when we come together as a collective, we're powerful, we're strong. We can make things happen and we see change if you decide that this is what you're going to work towards. So I do believe that we're unifying together in various ways. We can always do better. I always believe we can do better. And everything that I do, everything that I see, we can always do better. We have to, as a people, we've got to see the positive in life. And we've got to see the beauty that we have. And we have to be willing to support each other. If we support each other, we can move mountains. And that's what I believe in. And you talked about the churches, and when they were the African United Baptist Association, when they come together and you see the people come, you see the joy, and you see the happiness, and that's what unity is all about.
Thank you. Do you have anything you would like to add?
I think in order to have unity, you have to have communication. And there's so much that, like myself, I can learn from someone from a different generation, but also I can give knowledge of my lived experience to someone that has lived way more than I have. But it's that shared knowledge. If you put two generations together, who knows what they can do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also firmly believe in it takes a village to raise a child. And I'm appreciative of the Black communities and how we are so able to come together, even as like different communities, Cherrybrook, Lake Loon, North and East Preston, Hammond's Plains, like all of those communities are connected in what we are. We're Black. Like, I'm trying to say this. Yeah, in order to have unity, you have to be able to share knowledge and be open to something different. And although it might not be the way that times were for you guys, times have changed and we are constantly learning, gaining knowledge from one another.
No, thank you to each of you. And some of the things that I'm pulling from that, what you each shared, you know, I love what you just said, you know, around this, you know, unity across all the communities. Because for anyone that doesn't know, that's not from one of the historic African Nova Scotian communities, when there's pain, we all feel it. You know, it's not just an isolated thing. We all feel it. We all share it. So the weight of that is something that is shared. When there's triumph, we feel and share that as well. You know, when they say close-knit, that really is who we are and what we are. So I love that you touched on that. And like also the other thing that I hear from, you know, what you're sharing too, you know, I see, you know, the older generation as being kind of like giving us, you know, this faith and this resilience. You know, they've been fighting in those trenches and in circumstances and situations that we can't even fathom. You know, and then we get folks like, you know, the Miss Hudsons of the world who are leading and really planting seeds of hope. You know, and that's really what's necessary. You know, because it's blooming folks like Navasia. You know, those young people that are really, you know, trailblazing, that are showing up in spaces, and not just showing up, but holding space, you know, in spaces that they're not traditionally seen in. So I love what we're seeing and, you know, what's being shared here. And then one thing that I'll say too that I see that I love about younger folks is that they have way less patience than some of those folks before us. Like, young folks, y'all say no to young folks, they are not stopping and taking your no. They are going to keep on pushing, they're going to keep on fighting, they're going to keep on rebelling, and I love that about young folks and the energy that they carry. So thank you all for that. So the next thing that I kind of want to hear you speak to, and you know, to really kind of share with the audience today, you know, we talked about African Heritage Month. You know, it's the shortest month, it's one of the coldest months when you're here in Nova Scotia and in Canada. But how do we ensure that history is honored beyond February? What does that look like? What would you suggest to folks? What are some of the things that you would encourage people to kind of undertake and practice in their day-to-day lives from January to January, not just in February? And anyone can kind of jump in and start things off. So how do we, you know, ensure this history is honored beyond February?
It's hard. Like, it's got to be intentional. It's got to be deliberate. I used this word before, the will. There has to be a will to act, to do, to talk about listening, to change. And you know what? The other thing I think that is that we can't fear. We can't fear it. We can't fear. We can't fear it. Wow. All right, so we can't fear to make a mistake. We tell children all the time when they do things, if they fall, get up, try again. We got to do the same thing. If you don't know, right, find somebody you may know, reach out to them, get that support from them. We talked about having that when COVID was happening, we talked about we're all in this together. Well, we're all in this together. It's a shared reality, so we're all in this together. If we believe truly within our hearts that we know that people have not been represented the way they should be, if our history has not been told, if Indigenous people their history has not been told, we've got to do things differently. We cannot continue to do the same thing the same way. We talk about music. Music has changed over generation. And when the music changed, the rhythm changes, the dance move changed. That's the same thing with our history. We got to keep changing with the times. We cannot stay stagnant. We've got to have the will to act, the belief to do, to try, to get up and keep going. Dr. Martin Luther King, the late Dr. Martin Luther King said that you continue to believe even when you can't see the steps in front of you. So that's the same thing about history and about our culture. And so I do believe that we do need the training, teachers, those who are in front. But the other thing that we can't forget, and we talked about this right in the beginning, when you said was 100 years of the late Carter Woodson, you said 42 years and 41 years. Our ancestors, in terms of that history that they have so much wisdom. We need to bring it into the classrooms. We need to bring it to all those learning spaces that exist, including this space here. It needs to be part of it. So we cannot forget about our ancestors and the work that they've done. And I know there's more that I can say, but I know that I'm going to pass this on to Mr. Marsden and to Nevasia, because they have a lot of history to do in terms of what you feel that should be happening today to make sure that our history is no longer invisible, but it's visible in the spaces that we're in.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I agree with that totally. I guess I would say in terms of moving forward and keeping our history alive, you know, I guess I'm optimistic at heart. And I can't help but think that African Nova Scotian history is really Nova Scotian history. It's really Canadian history. We happen to be a black people who endured and were mistreated and all of that, but it's still Canadian and Nova Scotian history. And I love studying history. That's one of my favorite things to do. So as far as I'm concerned, why can't history be included in the general history? Like, why do we have to have a separate history? And again, that's my thinking, because I know the history and I know how we got here. But you know, if our history had been included from the beginning, our contributions, all that we went through, if that had been acknowledged and taught as history, then there wouldn't be a need to do all of this. So going forward, why can't our history be included as history teaching? It's real, it happened, whether it's good or bad. So to me, the way to make sure that it lives on is, if you're going to teach history in the schools, then teach history in the schools. Teach the whole history. You know, one thing growing up, and like I said, I love history. I learned about all of the European history, ancient history, and all of those things. But I couldn't find anything in here about the contributions of our black people. And for a while, I was thinking, wow, we didn't do anything. But then after I got older and started doing research and studying on my own, and to find out even my own grandfather served in the First World War in the No. 2 Construction Battalion and never knew anything about that. World War I, every war that Canada has been involved in, black people have been participatory in. That's history. So, in every endeavor that has taken place in this province, black people have been involved in. So, that's history. So why isn't history taught, real history taught, in real ways, like we teach other things? So if that happens, and I know it may sound naive to think that it would, but I don't see why not include it in the regular history, so that it'll be there for generations to come. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Thank you.
I guess I would say that to keep it.
So how do we ensure the history is honored beyond February?
I think acknowledgement and action. I feel like we say we want certain things and we say we're going to be better, but where's the action behind it? And it's not just on people outside of the community, it's us within the community. If no one should be able, my grandfather always told me this, no one should be able to tell you more about your history than you. If you're not training your brain and learning with those within our community that are powerful, like we learn about Dr. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, but we have Viola Desmond right here in Glasgow. And you don't really hear her as much compared, and even though she came before Rosa Parks, you would only hear about Rosa Parks when I was growing up at least. And I just learned about Viola Desmond when I got to junior high, which is pretty sad. But if we're not training our brains, knowledge is the most important tool that we have. If you are not learning your history and sharing the knowledge that you have, well, who's going to talk about it if you don't talk about it? No one's going to do it for you. So that's what
Thank you. And, again, just kind of pulling out some of the gems that I'm hearing. So, thank you. So, starting with you, we have to be willing to, adapt, to change the way that we're doing things, We don't have to live in the past, we're progressing and we're moving forward, so we need to be willing to change and adapt and do things differently, learn some new dance moves, to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. And I love what you said, Mr. Marsden, too, about history, because for a long time, a very long time, in Canada and other parts of the world, history has been taught selectively, and we are picking and choosing the parts and the pieces of the history that we are teaching, that we are sharing, and that is what is putting us in the position where we're in now, where we're trying so hard to teach the history, to share the history, because the parts that you're highlighting aren't the parts that we really see in ourselves. So I thank you for that. And then to you, your point of Asia, I love what you're saying too, because there is, and I don't think this is just solely for black folks, I think that everybody has an individual and collective responsibility to learn history, to share that history, because it's important that, not only do we know who we are, but we know who our neighbors are as well. So I thank you all for that. I'm going to pass this back to you guys in a second. So I'm just wondering what each of you would say. We are going to get ready to kind of wrap it up and open up the floor for questions, but we are in a government space. We talk a lot about, barriers, and things like that need to change, and systemic and institutional change is at the top of the list. So I'm curious from each of your perspectives, what does that change look like? What do we need to do more of when we're talking about governments and within systems to really honor, celebrate, and move our history forward?
I think providing more spaces for us, at least for me as a youth, I feel like we're the generation that all the decision making that's happening now is going to affect us, because we're the future. And if you're not giving us the space to have our voices be heard and to have growth, then there won't be any change. So letting our voices hold space and giving us those opportunities. I know for me now, like, I've been in spaces that I've built my confidence to be able to even speak in this room today. Like, if I'm given the opportunity to speak, I'm going to speak. I'm not afraid now to use my voice, and if I want change for myself and for my brothers and sisters that are coming with me, I have to put myself in those uncomfortable positions to want change. If we don't speak on our behalves, no one's going to do it for us, and we'll be just swept under the rug and lost within the system. So I would say making space, or actually putting yourself in spaces. Make space for yourself. Don't wait for the opportunity for someone to make space for you. So.
I love that, thank you.
I need to hear the question again.
So just from your perspective, you know, like I said, we are in a government space. We talk a lot about, you know, barriers and resistance, and a lot of that, falls back on systemic issues and institutional issues. So, in your, perspective, from your perspective, what needs to change? How do we change? What can government and other institutions and systems do better so that Black history is something that's honored, celebrated, and something that we continue to do moving forward?
Well, firstly, this space that we're in right now has significance for me because I used to work just downstairs in this building when I was working with the city at that time. And we spent a lot of time in this space and working with the mayor and other officials down here. And I remember that wasn't yesterday, but I remember then coming down here for the first time working in this space, from working what we used to call outside to inside. It was very intimidating. I don't know that there was another Black person down here at that time. So it was very intimidating. It was so different that I thought to myself, boy, am I supposed to be here? So I think one thing governments and institutions can do is to help break down those barriers. I think they're invisible barriers sometimes. We may be good at breaking down the obvious things, but the invisible barriers where you're intimidated because you're the only one. Those one-ups. So we have to, I think in government spaces, city, province, federal, whatever, if they can help break down those barriers, and that may involve having more diversity. I mean, diversity is, I think, strength, and it also empowers the people that come in who are, like myself, African Nova Scotian, or even indigenous, or whatever. So when you come in and you see others who are in the space comfortably, then it makes you feel more comfortable in that space. And it sort of gives you, I don't know, the license to develop as you are, rather than trying to conform with something just to get by. So I think breaking down those barriers, acknowledging where we came from and the impact that may have on where we are now, not to dwell on it, but to at least acknowledge and recognize that, hey, we may have to do some catching up. Not because we're not capable, but because we've been held back so long. So whenever you're started on a race or somebody has a head start, you have to run harder to catch up. And that's what our people have been doing for so long, running harder to catch up. It used to be back when I was working, you had to be almost twice as good just to be equal. So that kind of perception, real or imaginary, has to go away. And people of color have to feel comfortable doing what they do, being themselves, being creative, not labeled because you do it this way or you don't do it that way. So those are the kinds of invisible barriers that I face coming along. And I think going forward, if the more those invisible barriers can be erased, then I think progress can be made and will be made, and it's being made in spite of it. So I think if they're removed or reduced, there will be more progress. So I think that's what I would add to it at this moment.
Thank you.
I was trying to think what I could say, or just to support what my two folks here said. I was thinking more of like maybe the selection process, the recruitment process, the retention process, the part that Mr. Marsden said about the acknowledgement about the barriers. Like, I see departments, like separations, like I see diversity, I see African affairs, but do we see within those existing departments, those same departments right within them? So I don't want to see them like always being separate out. I think about where I work, we have a diversity, human rights diversity committee that's responsible for issues that deal with racism or inequities. But what about those individuals at the top there, in terms of those leadership roles? Why couldn't one of those directors be right there, or two directors, or three? Like, there needs to be more inclusion, as opposed to being separate departments. I'm not saying that it's bad to have separate departments, but I know that we can have inclusion where they're included within, Department of Community Services, Department of Culture. Like, it needs to be more of that in terms of integration of what departments. And then, once you get there, you can't be the only person. You can't be the token person, one or two. You need to have more. So you got to be able to retain them. And then how do you bring others along in those positions, that they're not left by themselves?
So we're running short on time. So I will open up the floor really quickly if anybody does have any pressing questions. But first and foremost, I want to thank Naveja, Mr. Joel Marsman, and Ms. Karen Hudson for your willingness to participate and engage today, for sharing your truth, for your courage, and sharing your stories, and sitting here and representing so excellently today. So if you could join me in just giving them a round of applause, please. Does anybody have a pressing question that they would like to direct at a panel member or the panel as a collective? Do you need the mic?
No, I don't. It's not really a question. I just want to say, like, looking around the room, like us as a whole, Naveja, have you ever been in this building before? So, like, the situations like this, that we need to set our youth and our younger folks up to be in positions to do these things. If she hadn't been here probably in junior high or high school, this would have been, a walk in the park for her. But she was nervous coming here today. She's never been here. Mr. Marsman said he worked here and was probably one. So I think if we set up our youth to be in places like this, our words and our stories will be heard sooner rather than later. I just want to share that.
That's me and David. For anyone that doesn't know, Mr. Ian David, thank you, sir. Okay, so we do have some treats, some refreshments.
No, not yet, Russ.
You didn't tell me. You tell me to hurry up.
Thank you. Please give our panelists another round of applause. And thank you, Russell.
This is a small token.
So we will be closing out shortly. We do have a another musical performance by Demarty Dixon, and just some closing words, and that will be all. Thank you again.
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why does my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow. I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow. I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy, yeah. I sing because I'm free, yeah. His eyes on the sparrow, and I know He watches. I know He watches. I know He watches me.
Thank you, Demarty. Now welcome back Managing Director of D&I, Tracy Johnson.
Thank you, Demarty. Beautiful. Take that. Today's ceremony reminds us that African Heritage Month is both a time of reflection and a call to action. Strength and unity means recognizing that purpose, prosperity, power, and progress are not achieved alone. They are built collectively. The African Nova Scotian Affairs Integration Office has a role to continue walking alongside African Nova Scotian communities, listening, advocating, and helping to turn community priorities into meaningful outcomes within municipal systems. I want to extend sincere thanks to our performers, our speakers, our partners, and community members who helped bring today together. And I hijacked Jaslyn because I wanted to take this opportunity to really thank our ANSIO and ANSCAP team. What you see here today, and a lot of what was done in partnership with the library last night, is led by that team. A small but mighty group. And I should add our ABR team in that too. And I just want them to stand and take their flowers. Devin Paris, Jasmine speak, and Russell Brooks. The amount of time, energy, effort, when I heard them say up there, you know, young people aren't going to take the nose. They're not going to wait. I whispered to Jasmine, I said, that sounds like my team. And it is, because they work so hard and are so committed to impacting change, not only out in the African Nova Scotia community, but right inside with municipal staff, policies, services, and the things that we're doing. So thank you everyone who continues this work beyond today. Your roles too, your families and your communities mean so much to this work. I invite you to stay and connect over some light refreshments provided by Robin's Sweet Treats. May we leave here grounded in unity and committed to moving forward with purpose. I thank you, I thank the team, and happy African Heritage Month. Enjoy.